We are going to look at equations of circles in standard form. This is TEKS from Geometry 12E. So the standard form equation of a circle is going to be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, and it's equal to r squared. So what do these extra letters stand for? Well, we have h and k, and h and k are going to stand for the center of the circle. And last we have r squared, and r is going to stand for that radius. So it's going to determine the size of the circle. The larger the radius, the larger the circle. So now if we're given an equation, we want to go ahead and extract that center of a circle and the radius. So we know that we need the center, which comes from HK. Now, when we looked at that original equation, remember that those equations had minus signs in them. So whenever we pull out numbers that had a minus sign, the signs are always going to change. So H is not a -3 because we plugged in a +3, and the same with the 4. K is not really a +4. It was going to be a -4. Okay, and at the end, we have this 25. Well, this 25 is r squared. So we have r squared equals 25. So how do you find just the r? Well, we take the square root of both sides, which leaves us with the radius being 5. So we're going to go ahead and practice that again, okay? We need to look for our center and our radius. Our center comes from HK, but again, we always have to change those signs. So that +5 will turn into a -5, and that -8 was really a +8. Now the last value is an r squared. So r squared equals 16, so we're going to take the square root of that number, and when we take the square root of that number, we find out that the radius is 4. Now if you want to practice this one on your own, you can actually pause this right here. Okay, we're going to find the center and the radius. So the center is HK, and so we're going to change that +3 and that +5 are really -3, -5. And the last number was radius squared. So we took the square root of 9 and we got radius of 3. So now let's talk about writing the equation if we're given the center and given the radius. Okay, so this is to write the equation of a circle with the center at 3, -2 and a radius of 5. So we start off with our standard form equation. Now that 3, -2 is our center. It's going to go in place of H and K. That radius is 5. That radius is going to go in place of R. So when we plug in those values, I wanted to show you in parentheses what we're plugging in, because as we've talked about, those signs are always going to change. So we plugged in a +3, but since it's x minus h, okay, it's going to end up being x minus 3. Since we plugged in a -2, we're going to have to pay attention that that -2 is going to change to a +2. And at the end, we have 5 squared, and 5 squared is 25. So that's how we write equations when we're given it. Whenever we plug in that number, it's best to put parentheses first to pay attention to your signs. Now, what about if we have to graph a circle with the center at a point and it has a radius? So we always start first with plotting that center point. And that center point being 3, -2, we graphed it right there. Now, when we have a radius of 5, that means I can go up, down, left, right, from the center point and count 5 in all directions. So from that center, I went up 5. Now I'm going to go down 5. I'm going to go to the left 5 and to the right 5. Now I can go ahead and connect all those points, and that is my circle that has that center at 3, -2 and has a radius of 5. Now what happens if you're given a circle and need to write the equation? Well, everything focuses on the center and the radius. So the center of this circle, right in the middle of the circle, is going to be -3, 1. Now the radius I can count in any direction. I'm going to go ahead and count to the right. So how far over did it take to get from negative 3, 1 to the edge of the circle? That's your radius, and the radius is 4. So again, we start with our standard form equation, and we're going to plug our HK and our R into the equation. So again, whenever I plugged in those values, I used parentheses because now I have to pay attention to the signs. X minus a negative 3 becomes X plus 3. Y minus a positive 1 becomes Y minus 1. And 4 squared becomes 16. So hopefully this video helped you find the center and the radius given an equation or from a graph, or you're also able to graph that circle given that point.